What's good, y'all, and welcome back yet again to another episode of Let's Get It. As always, I am Emery Ogletree II, the main attraction. Back for, I think it's going to be a fun topic today, man. As everybody I'm sure knows, the Patriots won another Super Bowl. They're 6-1, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. I have no choice but to concede Tom Brady is the GOAT. I've been fighting it. I didn't want to say it, and there's no disrespect to Tom Brady. I mean, even though I have my little debates when it comes to some of those rings, they got it done. They got their 6-1, and I've always been a Montana guy because Montana broke my heart. 2 years as growing up as a kid as a Bengals fan. He beat us both times, but 6 rings can't be debated. Belichick and Brady, the GOAT, there's just no more argument. They are, by all accounts, the standard, tying the Pittsburgh Steelers for a record 6th Super Bowl title in franchise history. But moving on from that, kind of sticking to the same theme, I read an interesting story by Ian O'Connor. He's the ESPN senior writer, and it was right after the Super Bowl. And Ian, no disrespect, man, if you ever see this, if we ever meet each other, I'm sure we'll have a nice little conversation about it. But I read your column and I had to laugh about it because, Ian, I have to admit, I feel you're probably just a prisoner of the moment. I have no problem if you sat there and said, the Patriots are the greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL. You'd have an argument. I mean, they're tied with the Steelers for the most in franchise history. No franchise player and coach have won more than Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. That can go in your favor. But you wrote a story saying that the Patriots are the greatest dynasty in the history of sports. And I just sat there, I couldn't get, it was amazing I even got past your headline, but I had to read your story. How in God's name are the Patriots the greatest dynasty in the history of sports? But you know what, though? That's, again, it's what makes sports fun. Because you can always talk about what your opinion is, how you feel about whether it be your favorite team, your favorite player, whatever. And as long as you're able to back it up, and Ian, you were definitely able to back it up, because otherwise, why would you be the senior writer at ESPN? You definitely gave us your feelings on why the Patriots were the greatest sports dynasty in the history of sports. Well, please understand, Ian, the main attraction does not agree with you. Not by a long shot. But you gave me enough fervor to come up with my 5 greatest sports dynasties. And once again, these are mine. So if you don't agree with it again, not that I care, but to each their own, right? My 5 greatest sports dynasties. So let's jump right into it, right? Number 1, and this may not come as a surprise to any of you, knowing me. You've probably gotten to know me since I started the show. Number 1, the Boston Celtics are the greatest sports dynasty in the history of sports. First of all, they got 17 world championships in their franchise history. And let's just go a little bit deeper into it. My hero is one of my biggest, influences, especially as a basketball player, Bill Russell, man. The foundation of the Celtic dynasty. He and Red Auerbach, 11 championships in 13 years. What else needs to be said? 11 championships in 13 years. A record 8 straight championships. And that's not just in the NBA, that's in sports. I looked it up. I did my research. That is a record in sports. 8 straight championships. I think the next closest ones were the Yankees, which I'll get to a little bit later. But they won 5 straight. No other sports team, regardless of sport, has ever won that many championships in a row. 8 straight finals, 11 and 13 years. The great Bill Russell, the foundation of the Celtic dynasty. Obviously starts with him. Moving on to the 70s, you got Dave Cowan and John Havlicek's, their little run in the 70s. They won 2. How can you forget Larry Legend? His 3 in the 80s, and obviously the big 3 winning their 1 in '08, giving them 17 world championships for the Boston Celtics. Again, they are my number 1 greatest sports dynasty in the history of sports. Number 2, the New York Yankees. 27 world championships, man. I mean, 27. Now, granted, baseball is almost as old as time. Baseball's been around forever. But what I found interesting about this particular dynasty is that I can't think of any sport that has, in their history, has had as many nicknames throughout their franchise history. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, if you look at the history of the Yankees, yeah, they have 27 world championships. But going through the decades here, let's start off with Murderers Row. That was Babe Ruth and them back in the 20s and 30s. Murderers Row, which is just I love that nickname. Then we have Stengel Squad. Now, that was the Mickey Mantle group. And they're the ones who I was telling you behind the Celtics won 5 straight World Series. That's an MLB record of the most consecutive championships won in that sport. But Stengel was the manager of the New York Yankees during that 40s and 50s era, winning a record 5 straight 7 and 12 years. Then you go on to the those mid-60s. You got the Eminem Boys. You got Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. I love that nickname. Then jumping into the 70s, the Bronx Zoo. Said they won 2. And that was with headlined by George Steinbrenner, Billy Martin, Mr. October himself, Reggie Jackson, and Munson, of course. And then obviously, last but certainly not least, the era of the Yankees I'm more familiar with, the Core Four. That's the ones of the late 90s, early 2000s. Jeter, Posada, Pettit, and of course the most recent and the first unanimous Hall of Famer, Rivera. Congratulations to him. But they're my number 2 greatest sports dynasty. Number 3, I'm giving to a franchise that I have to admit I don't really follow this sport, but my wife will greatly appreciate this because it comes from her neck of the woods. Shout out to wifey. But number 3, the Montreal Canadiens. And I really can't tell you too much about them, but here's what I got. They got 24 Stanley Cups. Now, the bulk of their Stanley Cups came between the 50s to the 70s. They won 6 and 10 between 1952 and 1960. Then they won 4 and 5 in the 60s. And then in the 70s, they won 4 straight. So that's not to add the ones they won in the early 1900s. Again, hockey, almost like baseball, has been around for forever. But the Montreal Canadiens, shout out to the Canucks, eh? Number 4, the Chicago Bulls. How's this even a debate? It's the Bulls. Number 4, 6 and 8. Scotty, Mike, Pip. Oh, excuse me, I messed that up. Phil, Mike, and Scotty. 6 and 8, man. And obviously, not obviously, it could be debated. It had not been for Mike's, early retirement the first time, and then when he came back, halfway through the season, they possibly could have matched Russell's record of 8 straight. We'll never know. Debatable, but like I said, we'll never know. And excuse me, I just realized I didn't turn on my timer. But we'll never know. But 6 and 8 years, man. Come on, man, that can't be overlooked. 6 and 8 years by the Bulls. You can pick which Bulls team you want to go with. You can go with the first 3, along with, Grant, BJ, and the crew, Cartwright, or you can go with the later crew with Kukoc, Luke Longley, D-Rod, of course, and all them. I said, whichever Bulls team you like, but 6 and 8. Now, number 5, I actually got tied. Because once again, this is no disrespect to any of the Patriot fans, and I'm just being real right now. We're just talking about dynasties. We're talking about dynasties, we're talking about history. So number 5, I got the Patriots and Steelers tied for 5th. Now obviously I put the Patriots first because again, with the factor of Belichick and Brady being the coach and player for all 6 Super Bowls, that can't be overlooked. So it gives them a slight edge to me over the Steelers. But theirs came, 6 and 19 years. We got with the first ring. After Brady's first ring, he ended up winning 3 and 4. Then it was 10 years later before he got his 4th ring, and here lately he's won his last 3 in the last 6 years. Impressive. But again, like I said, we got to look at the Steelers too here. They're not to be slouched on. The Steelers won 4 and 6 between 1974 and 80. Or 280, excuse me. The Steel Curtain, all-time great defense, arguably the greatest. You can always win the 85 Bears if you want to. They went back-to-back twice. Twice! They almost did what the Bulls did, but just shortly, smaller. The Bulls 3-peated twice. The Steel Curtain went back-to-back twice. They almost probably could have won 6 straight. Outside the gap they had in the middle. And, of course, you obviously have the Roethlisberger's Super Bowls. One with Tomlin and the other one with Cowher and everything in 05 and 08. But that's my top 5 right there, y'all. Again, like I said, this was just for fun. But my man, Ian, seriously, the Patriots are the greatest sports dynasty in the history of sports. Come on, man. we all admire what Brady and Belichick have done. Like I said, keep it relegated to the NFL, and like I said, you don't have an argument from me. But in the history of sports, I mean, come on, man. I just ran down 4 other franchises I can think of more than Brady. And I don't really have enough time to get into it. But this whole thing of throwing Tom Brady in the conversation with Michael Jordan, yes, they both have 6, but like I just said and told you, 6 and 8 is much better than 6 and 19. So, yeah, you can call Brady the Jordan of the NFL if you want to, but head to head, I'm taking MJ every time. So, in the end, y'all, as always, I am the main attraction. This was a quick one. It was a fun one. As always, I appreciate the comments, questions, whatever, man. I appreciate all the views I've been getting. I appreciate everything. Keep them coming. And until next time, I am the main attraction, Emory Ogletree II. Till then, let's get it.